So, hello my lovelies. You hadn't already gathered, I'm Marshall. We've got a 1v1 between Uber 1 and Uber 3, so possibly a couple of the best people in Planetary Annihilation at the moment. Proinegoproxy in purple and Oxide Ion in brown. Apologies for the fireworks in the background. I hope they're not too distracting. In fact, I should probably close my window. Should help a little bit. And back to the cast. Right. But bots first from Oxide. If we zoom out, we can see his build queue there. All the air, the naval, and the more air, and the vehicle transition later on. That's a long build queue. The likelihood is that will be changed up later on. Down to Proxy, though, in purple on the south side. Gone bots first, and he's ecoing up. Transitioning to vehicles a lot earlier and a lot heavier. Now, if we zoom out even further again, we can see what this map is like. For those of you unfamiliar with Amplus, it is a massive 1v1 planet. I think it's probably the largest one currently on the ladder. I think it's bigger than Duat, actually, a lot bigger than Duat. There are a lot of different strategies you can take, and typically you want to have a combination thereof. You want to expand early, which is good, and we can see that Oxide is already doing that with his fabricators here. He's expanding in a multitude of different locations, and he's getting a bomber out early to try and snipe some fabbers of his own. Meanwhile, down in Proxy, we can see he's on for the expansion with a Pelican expansion. That's an interesting one. He'll be going to get some mechs on a far-flung part of this planet, and we can see just how much metal there is on this planet. It's everywhere. And, well, ooh, hello. Yeah, those docks tried to take down that, but they didn't get the Fabber snipe, unfortunately. But yeah, there's the Fabber there from Proxy, going to expand there and possibly take it further out. Again, apologies for the fireworks if they're really distracting. For those watching the VOD, it's well, fireworks weekend, so we deal with it. But yeah, talking back to strategies, obviously the Horseshoe Naval Lake is something that you want to go into, and we already saw earlier on that Proxy's moving in there now at the moment with his naval factory. He'll try to get the mechs here and then start to progress around the bend here to try and pressure Proxy. Possibly even T2 Naval. T2 Naval is quite strong here if it turns into a heavy naval game. Alternatively, there's the line of shortest passage here, which tends to be the heavy vehicle lane, and we've already seen both players go heavy vehicles. But of course the bots are your sort of omnipotent, constant harassment, and over here actually a really good win from Oxide. He's managed to completely destroy and shut down that expansion there with just a single dock, so really well played there from Oxide. And he's going to want to continue to move around, and you can see he's scouting all of his mechs, because that's just so much mechs that someone may be expanding to in all sorts of different locations. And in fact, what's this Hero Docs doing? Is he scouting? Is he trying to get around the back to maybe raid these metal? Quite possibly, but there are, should I say, a couple of expanding fabbers there, quite vulnerable, and open to the snipey wipey. Meanwhile, though, the Orcas coming out from the naval, they'll probably go and establish some forward positions around this sort of region, if not playing defensively. We'll see a lot of torpedoes later on in the game. And the air game from Proxy is a go. The Pelican is getting its work cut out for him. He's sending fabricators left, right, and centre. And the bombers, do they see the docks? Does he go back for the docks? No, he's content to leave the docks alone. He's going around though to expand and maybe see if there are not expand, sorry, scout and see if there are any expanding fabricators to deal with. Unfortunately there aren't, but there are the interceptors there. The hummingbirds, will they take down the bomber? No, they will not. The bumblebee gets away, home dry. More interceptors just by passing from Oxide. They will get picked off though, unfortunately. So this is something that Proxy does like. Well, it's something that's essential, really, is the air game. And here is the Fabber that they were looking for. They just managed to find it. Down it goes. The bomber bypassed. Come on, bomber. There you go. There it goes. Down it goes. So that's a good win for Proxy. He's managed to shut down another expansion. And this Pelican is just insane! It's doing so much work. The micro involved there is pretty heavy, actually, to be able to be doing that. And microing those air and expanding in all those different places. It's going to be quite intense for Proxy at this point in the game. He has expanded to the central sort of peninsula, island bit, jutty out thing, with lots of metal on it, which is good. Scouting there from Proxy, seeing that a few mechs have gone up, managing to take down a few fabricators there as well, which is nice. And the Orcas coming out from Oxide, establishing a bit of a forward position with these bot fabricators. Nice Galata turret, possibly even put up a torpedo launcher. Instead, no, we've just gone for the heavy vehicles, still in the queue. So that commander has been set and forget for this whole game. Oxide is happy that his build queue is still valid. Meanwhile, Proxy, though, what's his plan? He's going pretty heavy docks still. I think he wants to maybe circumvent this army coming in here, but he will be able to defend it quite nicely. Even if he didn't want to circumvent it, but circumventing it means he would have all the docks there to be able to send to an alternate expansion and knock it down and stuff. But Oxide remains undeterred rather, in his expanding efforts, despite having a couple of Fabers sniped, despite scouting that Oxide is that Proxy, sorry, is scouting, not scouting, expanding. Blimey, it's Oxide and Proxy. It's such a confusing cast to do for some reason, but yes, bots are definitely the thing that you want to be using to harass everything, but getting the constant scout and even using air fabricators in odd places is a good idea. But the naval game is now afoot. We see the submarines going to take out the orcas there, and the narwhals. You don't really want narwhals. Maybe one for a ratio of X number of submarines or orcas, simply because narwhals are good against the air, but they do not have torpedoes any longer. They used to, but no more. And that is quite important because orcas do. So you can see the air game just trying to trade efficiently there. Oxide doesn't want to go too full in, but he does have the unit advantage there, and he will win that air game, and he will obliterate Oxide's air. And well, the Hummingbirds are retreating as well, which means he suffers fewer losses than had it been the other way around. Submarine force now, though, coming, and that'll put a lot of pressure on this mechs here, and possibly even go in further. But there are a couple of bumblebees there, and no narwhals to defend. There are only the interceptors to try and defend against that. The bumblebees, now this is what I meant about the docks. You've got to try and bypass this air that is around the place. Docks are so vulnerable to bombers. They do have the anti-air capabilities, but it's not great. It's good, though, that Proxy, I think he's probably area patrol that. Yeah, you can see the massive area patrol there. That is something that you just need to do with the docks if you see bumblebees there, because it means that the time that the bumblebees spend around trying to take out those docks is not ideal and inefficient, because you're not taking out many docks with each pass. More air game trading, though, going on. Oxide staying pretty strong in the air game. How many air factories have we got? Oh, pings, pings, pings from the spectators. Yeah, the commander taking a bit of damage from the subs, although he is establishing a forward position, and the commander doing that is good, but you don't want to overstay your welcome, because the commander will build those things faster and puts a little bit of a concern to the opponent. But now Proxy does know that the commander is there and that he's not elsewhere in the base to defend. Oh, Sparks. You don't want to send Sparks into area patrol docks? That was a silly idea. Still expansions going up. A few tanks coming out nicely. I mean, looking at the eco game, they're sort of fluctuating all the time. They're not stalling, not stalling, sorry, floating. So obviously they're using every scrap of eco that they've got. Oxide now beginning to go into the red now, down to 70% sometimes, and the same with Proxy occasionally. But as long as they're not staying there for too long, it shouldn't matter too much. If you stay in there for, I don't know, I'm going to say 30 seconds as an arbitrary figure, but at this point in the game, it depends on how much pressure and whatnot, but a long time, and it really starts to have a compounding effect. Looking at the build queues, though, what do we see queued up? We still see lots of vehicles, we see lots of movement queues, there's a rally point, and we see more vehicles from Proxy as well, and more air. So he wants to get into the air game. This is a thing that Proxy has been losing out to so far in this game, and he's trying to get back into it with an additional 4 air factories, more pings there. Yeah, we can see it, that it was a attempted raid, but it didn't quite manage it. Oh, it's the Galata turret. Glitch, exploit thing. Does it count as a glitch, an exploit, or what? Are there spinners in this force? No, there are not. So the bombers can reign free. There are the docks there, though. They'll do a little bit of work. What Oxide needs to watch out for now are interceptors and hummingbirds. Well, they're the one and the same thing. But it needs to watch out because they may perform surgical strikes on those bumblebees. There are only 3 at first count. Confirmed 3, maybe 4. Ah, they're going over Galata. Not good. They are taking down the fabricators though, so that forward base is not going to go up. The Galata does take out the bumblebees though. But we can see now those air factories from Proxy starting to pay their dues. He's got 6, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 air factories. So he's definitely going heavy in the air. He wants to win the air game back. He wants to have the air presence so that he can use his bombers wherever and whenever he chooses. Another air engagement though down on the main approach. Oxide does still have the unit advantage in terms of the hummingbirds there. If we look in the army tab, we can see 21 factories though to Proxy, and he's kind of got the eco to support it. He's struggling though. If we look around, we can see that he's still expanding in a multitude of different places, and because the planet is so big, it means that raiding these expansions is going to take a fair bit of time for any unit to get there. So actually getting the expansions will mean that they'll likely pay for themselves before they get killed off, which is good. And a wise investment there. And Oxide manages to lock down that expansion as well. Nice. Very well played there. That's quite a good win for him. What I think needs to be said though are the submarine conglomeration now on the Horseshoe from Proxy. He's beginning to show his factory count. Though he does still have to get through not only the submarines but also the torpedo launcher, which is already starting to fire. And Proxy's submarine horde has sort of evaporated, and nah, this is a good move from Oxide, planting the torpedo launchers on the shore where the submarines are not able to deal with them. If he also pops up a couple of Galata there, that means that Proxy will not be able to bomb them. This will force Proxy to rethink his naval approach, maybe start to move to Orcas, or just a heavier naval approach. Maybe more factories is required. And what is... yeah. You can sort of just bypass all these expansions. We'll look at the opposite side of the planet in the picture-in-picture there, so I'll set that so that it's always on the opposite side. The air game now, though, is still Oxides, I believe. Proxy not quite back into it yet. We do need to keep an eye on the economy, though, because given Proxy's ramping up his production, we need to make sure that his economy can actually support that. This big push now, though, from Oxide, this is potentially hazardous for Proxy. Lots of sparks in there to take some damage from these vehicles. Thinking better of it and retreating. And here come the air. Here comes the air. There are a few spinners in there though, and there aren't many bumblebees, so they will go down. There's no need for the hummingbirds to come in and trade out just yet, because the spinners were there doing their dues. Ah! And this is the air micro that I've been talking about occasionally. If you've seen me talking about it on stream before, or in videos, or in someone else's stream, or wherever, that's what I mean. When you micro your air into air fights like that, you want to be sort of circling them around, so that as the front ones fire, they then move round to the back to allow the back ones to fire. And so, you know, it means that the enemy hummingbirds, because the interceptors take a few hits to actually kill off, it means that you're likely to keep yours in circulation, whereas if you're not microing like that, then all the hits go directly to their intended target and kill them off, whereas the one who micros takes damage but more survive by and large. And that's the importance of that air micro there like that. Continuous scouting though from Proxy. Wants to make sure he knows exactly what's up. What he doesn't see though is the T2 Naval, and that is the crucial bit here. If Oxide can get this T2 Naval out, let's actually have a look. No, he has not scouted it, so that's quite crucial. If he manages to get that out, we'll start to see possibly Leviathans coming out, T2 fabricators for the eco and torpedo launchers, possibly even some Krakens or Stingrays. We'll have to see. Another air engagement, and that's not good for Proxy. Oh dear. He lost that one pretty bad, actually. That wasn't good. Bumblebee's getting a payload off, doing a bit of damage to those tanks. Spinner's not quite managing to finish them off. But if we look back in the army tab, though, while Proxy is actually stalling, we can see the factory counts there and the unit counts are relatively even now. So it's still anyone's game. What's Proxy working on? He's working on T2 vehicles. That's going to be pretty good, because storms are very, very good at excuse me, very, very good at anti-air. So they have the area damage. But that'll also allow him to escort his shellers and levelers, which will likely come out after he wants to get out a few fabricators first to get the eco, of course. As he's kind of struggling for it at the moment. We can see, though, the expansions beginning to get a little bit raided, and the unit counts on those expansions are beginning to rise. What is it with this? What? Is that a thing? But bombing raids could be made in various locations. Turrets going up from Oxide to lock down a few from Proxy, and oh my goodness, the red numbers in the Eco tab. Not fun. Oh dear, not fun. Not fun at all. But the T2 Naval is up. Do we see an advanced naval vessel coming out? We do see the Fabricator. We'll have to see whether he decides to go heavy eco first. It would be advised, given his current economic situation. Proxy also going for the eco, getting his power up first, assisting it with his comm. Oh dear, this is an actual... Yeah, I was going to say, Oxide doesn't want to engage there. He's single filing in effectively against a broadside, which is not what you want to do. Although he is getting off a few pot shots there. Oh no, wait a second. That's the shellers, ladies and gentlemen. The shellers are paying dividends against this sort of semi-aggressive force in no man's land from Proxy. But actually, the crucial thing here, if we zoom out, we can actually see him back into Proxy's base. He doesn't have many other tank forces. His economy stall is so great that his tank force is not being replenished, and actually the tank force from Oxide here is massive compared to that of Proxy, and he could push in here and do a lot of damage, especially considering he has those shellers already in the mix. And a second T2 vehicle factory as well. Wowza. Aha, the Kaijus. That's the name I forgot. I meant to suggest the Kaijus earlier on, but instead Leviathan popped out of my mouth. Apologies for that. I was trying to desperately think of which naval vessel I'd forgotten. And unfortunately, with forgetting things, you tend to not remember them very easily. But here is the crucial push here. Can Proxy defend against this in an efficient manner? Has he got some shellers coming out? He has. He's got one hero sheller that's just coming out. It'll do some good area damage against the stuff that's sort of bunching up in this choke point here. But unfortunately, he just doesn't have the unit count. And Oxide is saying, you know what? I'm going to push in. I'm going to do some damage to you and your eco and your factories and your production. And I'm going to have a follow-up force to come thereafter. And I'm also pushing in the naval as well. So I'm pushing on two fronts. And actually... he needs to save this fabricator. He needs to save that T2 fabricator. If that T2 fabricator goes down, that's a big win. That is a big win indeed. And this force here is probably going to seal the deal for Oxide. There's nothing that Proxy can do against this except run his commander away. And I think we've just seen Proxy get defeated here, as there's not a lot to defend this commander, who's now taking the damage. He's Ramboing in. Down he goes. Game goes to Oxide. GG's are called in chat. That was a great game to watch. Well, thank you for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed that one. For the purposes of the VOD rather than the stream, don't forget to leave any feedback in the comments. It's always useful. Thanks again. Red now pushing in against a turret, though, that does have a bit of a defense there from the wall. What Red can do here is just swerve, defend against this army maybe, and then swerve down to this black commander who is continuing to try and push out. But we do see a pelter in the black base there, I believe. Yeah, right in the back of the black base. That is going to force this commander back. He does not want to stay in range of that. Really good idea there from the grey team to put up that pelter. That'll really help them out. Ubercan's trying to go off from red here. It's just not working though. The walls are in the way and their units are getting gobbled up by this defense. So perhaps it's time to move back. Otherwise we'll see another commander overstretching his welcome here. Excuse me. Pelter's still in range. Commander taking even more damage, down to 36%.